Hey everyone, welcome to Miniature Painting 101, my new Tuesday video series where I will be covering how to paint a miniature through all the steps of preparation, including cleaning the model, removing it from its sprues, possibly pinning, through the entire painting process, base coats, layers, shades, color matching, all the way to post painting, such as basing, varnishes, how to protect your miniatures, etc. This is my first part of a many-part video. My goal is to cover each part in very good depth so that a new painter can come along, watch the series, and learn a good amount about each step of the painting process. So this part is called the Tools of the Trade. My goal in this video is to go over all of the possible tools you could use painting miniatures. I have divided this video into three parts. First, the preparation stage. Second, the painting stage. And third, the post-painting stage. And for each stage, I have divided these things into required, recommended, or optional. So let's begin with the preparation stage of getting your model ready for painting, and specifically the things that you're actually required to have to paint a miniature. So first of all, you need a model or a miniature. You can't paint a miniature without one. This is a pretty silly step, obviously, but you need one, whether it be this Tau broadside made of a combination of plastic and pewter, this War Machine model made of a combination of resin and plastic, or this Tau Firewire made of only plastic. And next you will need a painting space, an area in which you can paint and prepare your models. I recommend a desk because they tend to be sturdy. I also recommend that you keep this area clean and organized, as an organized desk will lead to a much easier process of preparation and painting. Next, you will need a hobby knife, or X-Acto knife as some people call them. To all those little kids out there watching this video, please get your permission from your parents. I am not telling little kids to use sharp knives. However, these type of knives are highly recommended as they can clean the model very easily. And finally, you will need glue to glue the pieces of your model together. There's two types of glue primarily people use. On the left, we have super glue, represented by this Gorilla Glue, in which you can use on basically any type of model. And on the right, we have plastic glue, which is used specifically on plastic models. This type of glue actually melts the pieces together and produces a stronger bond than super glue would normally. Here are some tools that aren't necessarily required, but will help in your preparation of the model, that I highly recommend. First, we have hobby clippers, small sets of clippers that are used to easily remove the pieces of the models from their sprues very cleanly. Next, a self-healing cutting mat. This mat is specifically designed to protect your table for when you cut models. That way you don't cut into your table and ruin it. And now, the optional tools that you could use in preparation. First, we have epoxy putty, or as it's commonly called, green stuff. When you combine the blue putty and the yellow putty, it creates a super adhesive, which you can use to sculpt, to mold, to use as a gap filler, or to pin or stick pieces together, all of which I will be covering in future tutorials. However, it is not necessarily required to paint your model. And next, hobby files. These are small files which you can sand down extra pieces or little bumps or mold lines on your models. I do recommend them, however, I don't typically use them. I'll be showing a technique in future videos using your hobby knife. You can remove most of the mold lines and spots without using files. However, if you want a little extra sanding action, use these files. Next, a hobby drill, or hand drill as some people call them. These small drills are specifically designed to drill small holes in your models, which you can use to either drill out the barrels of guns to add some detail, add some bullet holes, or to help pin models that are not easy to stick together. Or you can use magnets. There's an increasing trend of using very small magnets to magnetize your pieces, and that way you can swap out arms for arms or guns for guns. However, these things, though very helpful, are not necessarily required to paint your model. Now I will cover the tools that are required to paint a miniature properly. The first thing that you must obviously need to paint a miniature are paints, and paints come in a variety of colors, are made by a variety of companies. For example, on the left we have a Citadel product, which is made by Games Workshop. In the middle we have a Formula P3 product, which is made by Privateer Press, and on the right we have a Master Series product made by Reaper. You'll find that each miniature company, or at least the big ones, tend to make their own paints to go along with their models. However, one of the awesome things about miniature painting is you can paint any miniature with any type of paint. Paints also come in a variety of types, such as acrylic, which are these ones, which are water-based, or there's the enamel-based paints, which I tend to not use, such as testers. You will also need some water, which can be used for brush cleaning or diluting your paints, depending on what type of paints you use. If you don't use acrylic-based paints or water-based paints, you'll probably have to get some brush cleaner, specifically for that type of paint, such as enamel-based cleaner. And finally, you will need brushes. Obviously, to paint miniatures, you need paint brushes. Since there are tons of sizes of paint brushes, which can come in either natural hair or synthetic hair. Synthetic hairs tend to not last very long and don't keep their point as long, but they are much cheaper. And what I recommend to you guys when you're starting off painting is, number one, you go synthetic because they're cheaper, and try to go with at least one larger size brush, primarily used for base coating, one relatively smaller brush just for the smaller parts of the model, and one detail brush is the one on the very bottom, which you can see just to paint the eyes, the teeth, and all the very, very small details. As for the tools of painting, there are a few things that I recommend but aren't necessarily required to paint your miniatures. As I mentioned, there are tons of brushes out there, so once you get comfortable with the three, I recommend adding more brushes to your collection. Maybe one for dry brushing, which is a long, flatter brush such as the one at the top, or a fan brush, which is great for washes or shades, or maybe even a larger brush, maybe if you're painting tanks or large vehicles. Next, a palette. I know that one's slightly dirty, but palettes are great for temporarily storing your paints. As a transition between the pot or the bottle of paint and the surface. You put them in, and these are also great for blending paints. However, they're not completely required when you're painting a miniature. Now for the not as required tools, which I really like and I really use, but they're completely optional to the new painter. First, brush cleaner, such as this particular brand of brush cleaner. This brush cleaner and preserver really helps get your brushes really clean after you're done painting, and preserves the tip, so that way you can use them much more in the future. Next, this thinner. If you don't want to use water to thin your paints, water is actually not the best thing to thin your paints with, especially if you're using metallics. This thinner would do a better job. However, it is much more expensive, therefore I recommend starting with water. And finally, an airbrush, as well as all the other airbrush accessories. This is a great tool, a great product for producing awesome paint jobs. However, I do not recommend them for the beginner painter, especially if you're on a budget. And this brings us to the post-painting part. And the weird thing about the post-painting stage is nothing's actually required. Everything is up to you. The world is your oyster on how you want to model your things. First, an optional product which I highly use and I highly recommend is glue, PVA glue or white glue, to adhere the things to your base, such as flock or sand. Next, assorted flocks. I use many different types of flocks when producing my bases. On the left you can see sand, which is a great first part to base your bases. In the middle you have snow flock, which is great for producing a winter effect. On the right, small rocks, which you can use to produce a rocky landscape on your bases. On the top left, you see static grass flock. There's actually many different types of grass: burnt grass, dead grass, grass that will stick up. Tons of different types of grasses produce different environments. And this is actually a new product by Citadel or Games Workshop, which is a type of paint that you can use on your base to produce a textured effect. However, this is all optional. I've seen tons of people just use simple green paint or brown paint on their bases after painting them. And finally, varnish. You have a helmet for your head when you ride your bike, and it's the same thing. After you work so hard on your model, some people want to protect them using a varnish or a sealant. They typically come in about 3 different types. On the left you can see a matte varnish, which produces a dull finish when it's used. In the middle you'll see a satin varnish, which produces an intermediate, a little bit of a gloss to it depending on what type of satin finish you have. And on the right there's a gloss varnish, varnish that specifically produces a shiny texture. This is great if you're painting armor or space marines. However, many people use matte varnish on such things as skin. You'll figure out what types of varnish you like as you use them. And that's it for all the tools of the trade. Stay tuned for my next one next Tuesday, where I start a preparation on metallic models. Also, if you feel that I've missed a product, a very important one, please leave it in the comment section below and what that product does. That way we can help out the beginners. And as always, thank you to all you awesome people for watching my videos. You're great, and thanks to you guys, I'm allowed to start these cool new series. Please like the video, comment on the video if you really like it, if I should continue this, and if I've missed anything, and feel free to subscribe to my channel if you already haven't done so. So, this has been Painting 101. I hope you liked the video. Until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting everyone.